You've heard of kings who killed their brothers. But what about the ones they locked away? Their names erased from every book. How about a woman who crossed a continent behind the wheel before any man dared to try? She changed history, but history didn't keep her name. Or a doctor who warned the world, only to be locked in an asylum. Beaten, buried. Also the greatest female mind of the ancient world. Her scrolls burned, her legacy stolen, and finally, a girl who rode farther than Paul Revere. In a storm. At 16, you've never heard her name, but you should have. 5 people, 5 truths someone tried to erase. In this episode, we uncover the stories history wanted to bury. Because their names weren't lost. They were silenced. But we remember. And now, so will you. He told them to wash their hands. That was it. Just wash their hands. In Vienna, childbirth had become a death sentence. 1 in 3 mothers never left the hospital alive. Women were dying faster than the gravediggers could keep up. And still, no one asked why. Semmelweis saw what others refused to. Doctors were moving straight from autopsies to the maternity ward, without washing their hands. He introduced soap and clean water, and within weeks, the death rate collapsed. They called him hysterical, said he embarrassed the profession. He was saving lives, and they hated him for it. They didn't fire him. They locked him away, in an asylum. Not for what he got wrong, but for what he got right. Inside, he was beaten by guards. Days later, he died, alone, uncredited, and unmourned. Years later, they called him the Savior of Mothers. But the statue came too late. He never lived to see it. Alexandria had temples, libraries, and kings, but its brightest light was a woman. In the 400s AD, Alexandria was the brain of the ancient world. Hypatia was its soul. But in a city ruled by religion, a woman teaching reason was seen as a threat. They accused her of sorcery, of poisoning young minds, of worshipping false gods. One day, they came not as students, but as executioners. They dragged her through the street, tore her robes, and killed her, with shards of broken tiles. Her scrolls vanished. Her formulas were lost. For over 1,000 years, no woman would teach mathematics again. There is no grave, no statue, no image of her face. But every time a girl solves a formula, she answers back. But before we go to the next one, if stories like these matter to you, the ones they tried to bury, we need your help. Please subscribe, comment, and like the video. That's how we keep digging deeper and telling the stories no one else will. Because next, they tried to burn her name from history, but her fire still burned back. She rode into the storm with a message in her hand, and no one remembers her name. In 1777, British troops were burning towns. The American militia needed reinforcements, but there was no one to deliver the warning. She stepped forward. "I know every trail," she said. "Let me go." The men hesitated, then nodded. Before midnight, she mounted her horse. 40 miles of forest, no maps, no weapons, just her voice and her will. The woods were full of wolves, and worse, Tories with rifles. But she didn't stop. One by one, she pounded on doors. "To arms!" she shouted. "The British are coming!" By morning, she had rallied 400 men. The militia held the line, but the newspapers credited Paul Revere. There's a statue of her in New York. Most people walk right past it. Sybil Ludington was only 16. She didn't ride for glory. She rode because someone had to, and when no one else would, she did. She didn't ask for permission. She just packed her sons and took the car. In 1888, she drove 66 miles across Germany, with no roads, no map, and 2 children in the back seat. Crowds stopped in the street. Some thought it was sorcery. Others thought the machine was alive. The brakes failed, so she made her own, with a leather strap. There were no gas stations, so she bought fuel at a pharmacy. 12 hours later, she pulled into her hometown, covered in dust, smiling like she'd just rewritten the world. The headlines named her husband. The invention bore his name. Her ride and her legacy were left out. Her car now sits in a museum. Tourists take pictures. Most never ask who drove it first. They called it his invention. But Bertha Benz was the first to trust it, to prove it, to drive it into history. He wore the mask for so long, no one remembers the shape of his face, only that it had to be hidden. He was locked in the Bastille, the most feared prison in France. But his crime was never recorded, only his silence. No one knew his name, not the guards, not the other prisoners. Even his jailers were forbidden to look upon his face. Some said he was a nobleman, others a political traitor. But one rumor never died, that he was the twin brother of the king himself. He was moved between prisons, always in secret. He never spoke, never resisted. For 34 years, he simply vanished behind the mask. He died in 1703, buried under a false name. No family, no record. The man in the iron mask was erased, on purpose. The prison logs were burned, his belongings destroyed. Only his mask remains. In legend, why hide one man's face, unless his existence threatened everything the crown stood for? His face is gone, his name forgotten. But somewhere in the stories, he's still watching. They tried to erase them with silence, with fire, with time. But stories don't die, not when someone remembers. Every time we tell their stories, we undo the erasure. We remind the world what was lost and who was stolen. If you believe stories like these deserve to live, help us keep them alive. Like the video, share it, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. Whose story hit you hardest? We make these long stories because they matter. Because forgotten voices deserve more than a headline. They deserve a legacy. History tried to erase them, but you just heard their names. And now, they live again.